Good morning. Thank you for being here. To begin, I just wanted to read something from the Tao Te Ching by Lao Tzu. If they're not familiar with what that is, I'm not going to go into it right now, but it's a path, one of the great paths on the planet. If the people of the world were wise enough to plant the root of their life deep within the subtle origin, then the worldly affairs of life would coherently follow their natural course, and harmony would abound of its own nature. Then the peaceful order of the universe prevails, and unity manifests again of its own accord. Do we hear this? Let's read it again. If the people, if us, of the world were wise enough to plant the root of their lives deep within the subtle origin, then the worldly affairs of life would coherently follow their natural course, and harmony would abound of its own nature. Then the peaceful order of the universe prevails, and unity manifests again of its own accord. So I wanted to speak a little bit this morning about inhabiting immediate, eternal, timeless presence. We are sort of known, right, as a Sangha that's full of heart and beauty, and it's absolutely the compass here. Give the mind to the heart. Give the mind to the heart. Give the mind to the heart. But Sharon always used to say, first things first. First things first. And the planting our roots in the subtle origin, the mysterious source, is a first things first. Waking up out of that spell of somebodyness, where the thinker is an actuality. Somebody being fascinated, captivated, and contracted around the idea of reality, rather than living from and as reality itself. So the fragrance of a rose is not the same as the idea. We can't smell the rose in the idea of the rose. The idea doesn't contain the heart, the actuality. It doesn't contain the actuality. It's an idea. I'm not against ideas. Ideas are wonderful when they're in service to something other than a fundamental separateness, an idea about fundamental separateness, essential myness, like this is my idea and I have this and I have the other thing and these are my thoughts, and the owning of it all. When ideas are recognized as what they are, for what they are, and they're imbued with the subtle origin, well, then the harmony of the universe prevails. It's fresh, and it's full of potential and possibility, and it's immediate, and it's now. It's not referencing history or conditioning or the ideas about habitual, contracted, fascinated, really. It's like an allegiance, isn't it? Where the attention has allegiance to the ideas about everything. And if that is the allegiance and the fascination and the contraction, then one is never really, truly where one is. Inhabiting the right here, right now, immediacy of actuality. When we name the bird song, it's not the same thing as the direct experience of the bird song. It's fun, it's entertaining, it's useful in communicating as human beings, to name things, categorize things, be able to talk about experience. But it isn't the experience itself, right? It's not direct. So meditation is really an act of deep courage to really abandon, surrender, let go, relinquish the ideas about everything. To just rest as is. Come what may. Come what may. I can remember the instant that the one who, let's say the experiencer, fell away. I was actually in Portland. It was the one and only time I had ever sat with Mukti. I had sat with Aja and Sharon, but I went to Portland to sit with Mukti, and I don't know what she said. I don't really remember, but the one who has all the ideas, the thinker, the referencer, referencing, that all just blew out like in the first 5 minutes, and I got up and walked out, and I never went back, and I just sort of circled around Portland for a few hours until I finally called Timo and was like, whoa. You thinking does not actually, oh, thank you, microphone people. Thanks, Ty. Thinking is not fundamental to experience. It's not essential or fundamental to experience. All thinking can stop, and all doing can stop. Narrating, referencing, ideaing, and life just goes right on. It's wild, but it's so obvious as well. Like, it's literally like they all say, where you wake up just as you do in the morning and you go, wow, that was a weird dream. That was a really weird dream. How did I miss the reality? Where was I? It takes some grit, some steadfastness, some fortitude, the good old-fashioned virtues, courage, and as Adya would say, unconditional follow-through. Very Zen, unconditional follow-through. Because all of the layering, let's call it. Here it felt like just infinite amounts of cotton batting, you know, that stuff you put in quilts, you know, like to make it kind of cushy and soft, had just fallen away. Everything was so raw, so pure, so, because there was no internal mediation, no internal deciding about everything. Everything was just as is, everything is. And well, so most of us, maybe not you, I don't know, but most of us have a lot of that cotton batting, a lot of obscurations, a lot of conditioning sitting on top of what's actual that makes the mind feel settled. Temporarily, it always comes back, right? In the form of whatever our particular neurosis or psychological fallback is. Rationalizing, judging, righteousing, I don't know what it is. Everybody's got their own thing. Indignation, fear. To settle that, we grab on and contract around these ideas that settle it for a little bit. It's very innocent, and it's not something we have to shame ourselves about. We can, but that too is another runaround. I mean, who among us, when we were young, was taught? I mean, maybe there is somebody in this room, was taught to anchor and root into the subtle origin when things got rough. I was not taught that. I mean, you know, no harm, no foul. My parents are beautiful people. I'm not a victim of anything. But it wasn't in the consciousness. Some people are born with a ability, a knowing, a remembering, you know. Our daughter used to call it going inward. Excuse me, Mom, but I'm going inward. Root in, ground into the subtle origin. In other words, remember who one is beyond all of this conditioning that has been brought into a solid sense of identification to make oneself feel real. What we don't realize in that movement is how we are completely abandoning our reality, our truth, the nature, the harmony of the universe, of its own accord, its nature, our nature. We don't realize that. We're just trying to maintain homeostasis and get the nervous system to like regulate in the like, you know, this. And I'm sure there's a lot of us who have, you know, the pushback that is sort of part of certain generations to, you know, the word God and religion and all of that because of all the dogma and the obvious abuses. But you know what? Look at the cult of oneness. And there's a lot of spiritual egoism and abuse. I mean, it's part and parcel with ego. You know, you have to be really willing to stand, sit down, plant, root, and sort of develop and mature into that capacity to recognize what is not coming and going, what's real. Because I'm not trying to separate heaven and earth and nirvana and samsara and all the rest. I can't find separation if I want to. It just doesn't exist here anymore. I used to try to find it because it would have been a handy eddying out of the the raw current. And it was so like the way for so long that I would go to look for it, and it's like, oh, nope, no separateness, none, okay. That was not going to work anymore. We can call it the ground of being, original primordial awareness, source, mystery, that, she. I don't mean gender, I'm not talking about gender, just here there was a definite, a recognition, calling something, like Dr. Hawkins used to say, calling a spade a spade. She who rises. I mean, some people call it the Holy Spirit. I don't know. It doesn't matter. But it's worthwhile to know within oneself what one is actually talking about. Because if there's still a very strong someone who has woken up and is now living an awakened life, now the me is living awake. I'm not against it. It's a phase on the journey. It's just not what I'm speaking about in this particular moment. It's something to recognize. What am I still very contracted around? What thoughts are being believed? You don't even have to decide, I don't want to believe that from the get-go. Just investigate. Just investigate what is actually being believed about what one is experiencing. There's the experience, and then there's what one believes about it. And just ask yourself. We have to ask ourselves, how is that working for us? Is it a return to universal harmony? Have I done what I can? Am I right here? Am I present? What's happening right now? Can I sit here with this? And a listening to something much, much, much deeper than the describing mind. It takes a willingness, a courage, because that allegiance is really kind of it's an addiction. It's on the level of addiction, because we're addicted to the distraction, whatever the distraction might be in our own particular individuation, whatever that distraction is, to get out get away or get more, or preserve a state of consciousness. I, like, say somebody or someone, one of us really enjoys the, addition of psychoactives on the journey, ayahuasca or whatever it might be, whatever that is. And then afterwards, is there this compulsion to preserve that state? I'm not speaking about states of consciousness. They're interesting. States of consciousness are interesting. I've had some really interesting ones on this journey. So, I mean, whoa. But that's not what I'm speaking about. I'm speaking about that which is beyond all states of consciousness, all coming and going, all phenomena, all ideas, references, visions, imagination. It's like the space in the room, like we were speaking about last night. It's present for all of the coming and going and the objects, and it's present for all of that, but it isn't defined or changed by any of it. So too awareness, the subtle origin, the origin. And attention is the dynamic aspect of awareness, but we tend to mistake the, it came into my awareness, or I moved my awareness, and I would really encourage you to investigate that. Investigate whether awareness itself is manageable, manipulatable, movable, or anything else. Attention, certainly. Attention, certainly. We have that capacity to move our attention, move the attention, that dynamic aspect of awareness. But what knows that attention moved? So it's subtle, which is really, oh man, it's kind of one of those things that just stands me still. To recognize and actually directly experience how subtle the origin of all that is. I mean, wow. It's appearing not so subtly at all in every one of you, and this amazing gathering, and these flowers, and this altar, and it's appearing as like those trees, the sky, the mountains, the rivers, all of existence is like, and within all of that, as that, is this subtle, dark mystery. Wow. So I think there can be a tendency, boy, I know there was one here. I could tell the story of the like, go tell it on the mountain phase, I mean, proselytizing. Like, I mean, because you just want everybody to have the joy and the love and the oh my God, and to be liberated from the spell of unworthiness. Oh my God. And not good enoughness, and referencing all of that all the time. There's a deep movement here to put a light, shine a light on that. But I think there can be a tendency of if the mind and the subtle roots of the ego structure get a hold of awakening and whatever experience that has been, to, claim it and contract upon it and begin to start orbiting around that. And I see it again and again. That aspect of consciousness that is the sort of referencing aspect, it likes to, that its function is to move and follow and organize and attribute and assume and make the world navigable. So, I mean, it's not like it's a bad thing. If that navigation falls out, which it did here for a little bit, it's very difficult to navigate. I mean, you learn to navigate by essence, but and that is a natural function. But it makes it easier to have that all in place. But it's not fundamental. See, we begin to really assume that it's a fundamental thing, that it's necessary, that it's essential to what actually is. And then we start orbiting around whatever new navigation comes in with our spiritual realizations. And what I'm speaking about is an instantaneous, immediate free fall. Just inhabiting eternal, meaning not eternal time, but outside of time, timelessness, timeless. I don't even want to say now because it makes it sound like it's in time. Presence. The unknowable alreadiness. And contemplating, putting the attention, giving the attention, paying, giving the attention to something that we can never really see the way we see material existence. It's known through the sense of it as it. Giving that attention, but it feels so subtle that it's a relearning, it's a retraining, you might say, of the attention. You have to kind of apply yourself, because it isn't our habit. Eventually, you couldn't apply yourself if you wanted to. But it would kind of be like trying a rock rolling downhill, assuming that it's applying itself to gravity. You know what I mean? Because it is, which is wonderful to anchor into. That's that confidence I was trying to speak about last night, that buoyancy of, even if it's just an understanding, even if it's a glimpse, even if it's like still coming and going, the view from content to context or whatever it is, wholeness to divided to division, putting the faith, Ani was calling it faith, putting the faith in the basic goodness, the basic goodness of life. We're not separate from that. We're not separate from that. The division and the belief in a separate self that has been assumed as an identity for humanity, humanity being little separate islands unto themselves, little separatenesses, little mind worlds, 9 billion. That particular obscuration, maybe even I would say spell, is not natural. It's not a natural thing. And so we have the sense that we are not natural, that we're not somehow part of nature, that all that beauty and love is, you know, in the lake, in the river, in the mountain, and what a beautiful reflection, yes, indeed. But it's only because there is a me over here assuming separation as reality that we have lost the sense of this naturalness, at restness, effortless effort. Home, return to love. Home, home as a whole heart, wholeness, whole lovingness, a unified field of existence. So we have to, we have to be sincere and courageous. And I don't use the word faith very often, but when Ani used it, I resonated that it does take some, I think I usually just say like stick-to-itiveness. It's the rancher in me. It's like, stay with it, kid. Get back on the horse. But it is kind of it's a willingness to, at least right now, here in this full circle for this week, just question your beliefs, question our beliefs, and live from a new, change the room in our mind for a day. I've never been in there. Go to the unknown. Even if we consider ourselves to be very spiritually awake, whatever it is. Who was I speaking with? I don't know, it might have been Sharon. And the bringing forward of that living edge of surrender. It's alive. it is alive. And it's not known. It doesn't have any time for that, literally. There's no time for nailing it down. It all sounds like complete bull to the mind, to the one who knows, to the very solid sense of personhood. The experiencer is going, I think that's why so many people, when they start circling the drain, when that solid sense of selfhood, separate selfhood, starts circling the drain, the panic ensues, because it's a survival mechanism. It's very innocent, and it's actually kind of heroic. I've saved the ship many times. Don't let me go down the drain. It's a bad idea. You need me for sure. And it doesn't exist just in the mind. The mind and the body are one. It exists very viscerally in the body. I mean, that's where, like panic attacks, I mean, the whole phase of, I'm speaking personally, of having to pull over to the side of the road and like, fear no danger, fear no danger, fear no danger, fear no, this is fear, it's not danger, this is fear, it's not danger. To try and convince the nervous system, like, yes, this does feel like death, but we're going to survive. Funny, not funny. All the traditions talk about it, right? As a death, the end of your world. And I don't know, some people sail right through it. I'm not trying to convince anybody it has to be big and dramatic and scary. It just often is. I mean, I've been teaching for 11 years, and I get a lot of people who get on the path and then begin to start experiencing that dismantling. Because, our ego structures think they're going to gain something. I'm going to achieve something, I'm going to get something. I'm not going to give it all away. If I do give it all away, I'll get something back. Oh, it's amazing. And so, then there'll be the phone call of like, no, I'll pass. I love you, but no thanks. I totally get it. But then at a certain point, that's no longer an option. It's too far. Yeah. It's like, what movie was it? The Never-Ending Story or something, where as they're walking through the world is just disappearing behind them. It's not like you could turn around and go back that way. It's gone. There is no back that way. It's a really tricky thing to speak about. It's super tricky. It sounds like there's a lot of doing, and the experience is there's none. So, how do you talk about that? I remember Aja, you would say at the end of his talk, some of you might remember, he'd be like, okay, now just forget every single thing I said and go enjoy your day. I get that. I get that now. I want to go, okay. Give your mind to your heart, breathe easy, relax, and enjoy. Because it really is of its own accord. I want to read this again. This is so succinct, so perfectly right on. If the people of the world were wise enough to plant the root of their lives deep within the subtle origin, then the worldly affairs of life would coherently follow their natural course, and harmony would abound of its own nature. So we don't have to be a crusader for oneness and all the rest. But maybe that's a phase. Maybe that's an exciting thing for a while or something. I did that. But harmony abounds of its own nature. It's its nature, like water wet, fire hot. Then the peaceful order of the universe prevails, and unity manifests again of its own accord. There's no other dream in reality than love and harmony and beauty. The only thing obscuring that is the dream of a separate self. The only thing in existence that has a dream other than harmony, love, beauty is separateness, division. That's the only thing in existence that's dreaming something other than love, beauty, and harmony. The dream of source, of origin, is existence as love. There's no other reason to exist if you're the source of all that is. It's an act, if you want to call it that, of love. And love only. But this dream that can be woken up out of. It's like, whoa, where was I? That was a weird dream. This dream of division, separate selfhood, has got to, you don't have to take it from me. We can look around and see what division gives. It only gives more division. That's it. I'm not talking about, some people will come back with, well, these are all divided, and I get individuation. Individuation is a gift of diversity from the loving, subtle origin. It's playful and creative and fresh and new. As are we when the orientation around a fundamental separate self is let go of, is surrendered. Then it's fresh, creative. I'm not saying perfect. There's a lot of conditioning. Even if one happens to somehow or another return most of the personal conditioning and habituation and familial stuff to love, well, then there's the collective. That's why we say, may it serve all being. May it serve all being. Not just, well, I'm going to wake up and then I'm going to start co-creating with God for the pink Cadillacs and woohoo, lucky me. It just does not work that way. May it serve all being, because it's coming from beingness itself, seeing itself in all that is. Okay, now forget it all. But if I could just encourage a questioning curiosity, a sense of maybe this isn't as solidly the way I see it as I think, or just a deeper listening. Okay, I'm on that channel. I hear what it's got to say. I've been hearing it for 58 years now. What's deeper? What else is here? Can I experience something through some other orientation and referencing point than the narrative mind? What if I was perceiving from here? What if I was perceiving from here? What if I was perceiving from the bottoms of my feet? Sacred open hands.